Hey, it's Beth. Welcome back to Chill English Dose. There's a small bookstore near my apartment. I've walked past it 100 times, always meaning to stop, but never finding the right moment. One cloudy afternoon, I finally did. The sign outside was simple: second pages. Inside, the smell of paper and dust felt like a memory I didn't know I missed. I didn't go there looking for anything special. I just wanted silence. The kind of silence that doesn't ask for anything back. The owner nodded when I walked in, a gentle smile, the kind that says welcome without words. There were only 3 other people: a girl sitting on the floor with a stack of poetry books, an old man tracing titles with his fingers, and someone at the corner reading under the yellow light. I found a chair near the window. It creaked softly when I sat down, as if happy someone was using it again. Outside, the city moved. Buses, footsteps, umbrellas, but inside, time folded itself into something slower. That's what I love about bookstores. They hold hundreds of lives inside them, but they never feel crowded. You can sit between stories and still feel alone, peacefully. At first, I just looked around, not reading, just observing. I watched the girl flip through a book, the way her lips moved quietly, as if tasting the words. The old man coughed softly and smiled when our eyes met. No one said a word, yet it felt like we were sharing the same breath. It reminded me of how connection sometimes doesn't need language. It's like sitting next to someone in silence and still feeling understood. I pulled a random book from the shelf. Its cover was worn, corners bent. Inside there was a note written in pencil. "Read this slowly." I smiled. Whoever wrote that knew something I was just beginning to learn. I turned to the first page and started reading. The story wasn't spectacular, just simple reflections on everyday life. But every sentence felt like it was written to be heard in quiet. It said things like, "Solitude isn't empty, it's where you meet everything that makes you whole." I closed the book after that line and looked outside. The rain had softened, the clouds starting to clear. People were still rushing, umbrellas brushing past one another, unaware of the calm tucked inside this tiny shop. And for the first time in a while, I didn't want to be anywhere else. I used to think solitude meant loneliness. When I was younger, being alone felt like failure, like everyone else was out there living while I was standing still. But lately, I've started to see it differently. Maybe solitude is just another form of connection, a quieter one, with yourself and the world. You start noticing things you missed before, the way the air smells before rain, how a stranger's voice softens when they say thank you, how sunlight lands differently every afternoon. It's strange how, when the noise fades, even the smallest things begin to sound like love. I stayed there for about an hour, didn't buy anything, didn't need to. But when I left, something inside me had shifted. The world outside was still busy, still loud, but it didn't feel as heavy. I realized peace isn't about escaping life. It's about noticing where it hides. As I walked home, the sky turned gold. I passed people holding coffee cups, talking, laughing, scrolling, everyone caught between connection and distraction. And I thought, maybe we all just want to feel seen, even in silence. Maybe that's why we read, write, listen, and walk into bookstores on rainy afternoons, to be alone together. That evening, I wrote in my journal, "Solitude is the space where I remember I'm still part of everything." I didn't need to post it anywhere. It didn't have to mean anything to anyone else. It was enough that it meant something to me. I went back the next weekend, not because I needed a new book, but because I wanted to inhabit the feeling again, that soft, unhurried calm that hangs in the air between shelves. The light was different this time, warmer, like late afternoon had decided to sit down and stay. Dust danced in slow motion. Somewhere a chair moved an inch, as if the room itself was breathing. I found a corner near the back where the travel books met the poetry, a quiet border. I ran my fingers along the spines and thought about how many lives touch each page before it finds a home. I wasn't lonely. I wasn't even looking for company. I was here for something smaller, something I didn't have words for yet. The feeling of being surrounded by stories and belonging to the silence. There's a particular comfort in spaces where nobody asks you to be anything except present. Bookstores do that. So do gardens and old libraries and quiet kitchens at 4 p.m. The requirement is simple. Be here, fully. I used to resist afternoons like this. I felt I needed a reason, a book to buy, a chapter to finish, a plan to justify the time. Now I was letting the moment justify itself. No task, no timer, just the gentle act of staying. I took a small notebook from my bag and wrote a few lines that felt true in the soft light. Solitude becomes connection when you let the world sit beside you. Presence is not a performance. It is a home. I paused and watched the letters dry on the page, as if calm could be printed. There are words that keep me honest when life tries to speed up again. I return to them like steps on a familiar path. I thought about solitude. Its basic meaning is the state of being alone. But alone doesn't always mean empty. Sometimes it means open. In solitude, the center of your life moves back inside you. Your senses wake up, you hear yourself without echo. Then connection. In simple terms, it's a link or relationship between people or things. But some of the strongest connections aren't loud or crowded. They're the quiet ones, the kind you feel when you share a room with strangers and still sense a gentle togetherness. Or when the city hums and you realize you're part of it, not lost from it. I thought about presence, the state of existing or being present in a place. Presence is what I was practicing here, the skill of arriving. You don't force it, you allow it. You notice the air, the light, the weight of the book in your hand. You let your attention rest where you are. And attention itself is notice taken of something, the act of focusing. Attention is how ordinary moments decide to become meaningful. When you place your attention on a simple thing, a sentence, a breath, a sunbeam, it grows gently in value, not because it changes, but because you do. I smiled at one more word, linger. It simply means to stay in a place longer than necessary. What a beautiful permission, really, to linger, to not rush from one thing to another, to allow a minute to be more than 60 small pieces of time. I closed the notebook and leaned back. The chair creaked again, familiar now. The shop had its own heartbeat. The soft slide of paper, a distant cough, the faint sigh of a page reaching for air. I felt steady, tuned to the room's gentle tempo. Not long ago, stillness made me anxious. I treated silence like a problem to solve. I filled it with scrolling and noise and plans. Afternoons disappeared into tabs and timelines. But solitude, when I let it teach me, brought a different kind of closeness. Closeness to what matters, closeness to the truth of how I move through the world. I noticed something else about connection. It can be a bridge between you and yourself. When you attend to a moment, really attend, you connect with the person living it. You become the friend who stays, the listener who doesn't interrupt. It's a kindness you can keep offering breath after breath. And somehow, that private kindness spills outward. You look at other people differently. The tired barista, the parent with a noisy stroller, the student carrying too many books. You don't know their stories, but you feel the weight and the wonder of them. Compassion grows where attention lingers. I walked slowly through the aisles and found the shelf where people sometimes leave notes. Tiny paper bookmarks with messages for whoever finds them next. Nothing dramatic, simple sentences. Try page 42. This chapter feels like a rainy day. Read this when you need to come back to yourself. It felt like a quiet version of community. No names, no expectations, just care folded into paper. I didn't take any notes with me. I didn't need to. The care itself was enough to carry. As I walked outside, the city had brightened. The pavement was still wet, but the sky was learning to be blue again. I walked without hurry, passing cafes and corner stores and lives unfolding at normal speed. I didn't want to escape the world. I wanted to belong to it with a gentler posture. At a crosswalk, I waded through one green light and then another. Not because I missed my chance, but because I realized I had none to miss. There is a kind of freedom in not being pulled by urgency. The street will open, the day will go on. You can meet it calmly. Back home, I made tea and let the steam do its slow work. The window caught a stripe of sunlight and held it across the table like a thin ribbon. I opened a book to the first page and decided I would read the way the pencil note had suggested, slowly. I didn't measure pages, I measured breaths. There is a rhythm to reading quietly. The eyes move, the mind follows, the heart nods. Sometimes you stop and stare at nothing because a line has held your face in its hands. Sometimes you smile without meaning to. Sometimes you close the book not because you're done, but because the words have finished speaking for now. I thought about how many afternoons I had traded for speed. I thought about how easy it is to believe that connection lives only in noise, calls, posts, calendars. But here, in this gentle room with this gentle book, connection felt like a soft thread between me and the moment. Solitude had made space for it. Attention had tied the knot. There are a few more words I want to hold, the way you hold a cup for warmth. Sanctuary. A safe or holy place. I used to look for sanctuary in huge changes, new routines, new tools, new goals. But sanctuary can be smaller. A chair by a window, a bookstore with a creaky floor, a mug you always reach for at 4 p.m. Sanctuary is any place that remembers your softness and returns it to you. Intention. A plan or purpose. I don't want my life to be led only by momentum. I want it to be shaped with intention, to choose one slow hour a day, to choose one quiet practice, to choose what I pay attention to. Intention is how solitude becomes connection on purpose. And quiet. Making little or no noise. Yes, but also quiet is an energy. It's the feeling of not needing to add anything to be whole. Quiet doesn't erase life, it frames it. I wrote these words on a single page and kept the page with me for a week. I would read it on the train, at the sink, while waiting for water to boil. It wasn't a rule. It was a reminder to live from the inside out. A small truth revealed itself across these afternoons. Solitude doesn't push people away. Panic does. When you rest inside your life, the world gets easier to approach. Conversations deepen. Work cleans up. Even the messy parts hurt less because you're not fighting them alone. I've started to think of connection as a circle that begins with presence. When I'm present, I'm available. When I'm available, I can listen. When I listen, connection happens. With my work, with people, with the afternoon itself. It's simple and it's everything. So, if you find yourself overwhelmed, if the days have become one long hallway with no windows, try this. Open one. A window can be literal or not. 5 quiet minutes in a chair. 3 slow breaths by the sink. 2 pages read without rushing. If you can, visit a space that doesn't ask for performance. A park, a small museum, a bookstore at the edge of town. Go there not to take something, but to receive the feeling of being unhurried. Linger. Let your attention sit down. Let the room teach you how to breathe again. Before I end, I want to leave you with a gentle practice you can carry into any afternoon. Choose an object, a leaf, a cup, a page, and give it a full minute of attention. Notice color, texture, temperature, the way light finds it. That's presence. Then ask yourself one soft question. What do I feel right now? Not what should I feel? Not what will I do next? Just what is here? If you do this often, Even for a minute, solitude begins to feel like a welcome guest instead of a closed door, and connection becomes less of a chase and more of the meeting. So, if you had one slow hour today, where would you spend it? And what would you let yourself notice there? Let the answer be simple. Let it be yours. You don't have to explain why you need quiet. You don't have to prove that solitude is useful. The usefulness is in how you return to your life, steadier, softer, and more awake to what matters. If this story helped you breathe a little easier, subscribe to Chill English Dose. Here, we practice presence through calm English listening, one gentle afternoon at a time. Until next time, may you find your small sanctuary, and may you linger there long enough to feel connected again.